And so the attendance has been taken, and there is no public comment. So I'm going to move on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. So first is the minutes of the September 1st commission meeting. And if there's any comment to that, please raise your hand. If not, could I have a motion to approve? Carl makes a motion to approve. Second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, Stan seconds. All in favor? Raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, pass it unanimously. Next item is the financial reports, item B. And there's a recommendation by staff for those reports to be received and filed. Are there any questions regarding that? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve? Carl so moves. Is there a second? Jim Ferrin seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then the final item is item C, the Regional Planning Commission staff report. And staff recommends that those reports be received. Is there any questions regarding that? Okay. If not, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Okay. And Chuck Irwin motions to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Stan seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously passed. The regular agenda or items removed from the consent agenda, does anyone have any to bring up? If not, we'll move on to item number 6, which is a presentation from Patrick Colbin behind me. He's the CEO of the Bloomington Normal Economic Development Council. Patrick, thank you so much for being here.
Definitely. So this is the right spot, right? So
Sure.
Yeah, the camera is above, and then the rest of the commission here.
Well, I don't understand not on the camera, so that's okay.
Yeah, I think she
I'll
can
move
just.
it over to you. Just getting your presentation ready.
You can see the picture.
Oh, he's there at the bottom.
There you go.
Uh-huh.
All right. As Ray said, my name is Patrick Colbin. I'm the CEO of the Bloomington Normal Economic Development Council. Today we've got a couple different things. So we'll talk about just an intro, what our process is, our goal and objectives. If anybody wants a copy of our strategic plan, we actually have 15 items on a public plan. And we have 20 items that are on a private plan, but I can send a copy of the strategic plan out afterwards. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free. My email will be at the end. Next slide, please. So economic development, this is the 3rd community I've done this in. It really means something different in the community. When we were in Decatur, it's heavily manufacturing. When we were in Tinley Park, it was more of a veteran community. So a lot of people worked in the city of Chicago, lived out there. Here in Bloomington Normal, we've got a very nice variety, very diverse. College town, insurance town, plenty of room for distribution. So that there's a nice mix of what can go on here with a lot of fertile ground. The overall goal, though, for us for economic development, we always describe it as the efficient allocation of scarce resources, and our job is to try to develop those resources. Next slide, please. So the EDC itself, we get asked a lot, like, how do you play in the sandbox with everybody else? Because, you know, the city of Bloomington has some economic developers, the town of Normal has economic developers. We are a public-private partnership. I've been on multiple sides in different systems. I've worked for private developers, I've worked in government. This by far is my favorite because it is public-private. We're a board of 18. We are funded both by the city, the town, the county, but also the private sector as well. What that means for us is that we are non-employable. So we can act as the Navy SEALs and go out and do what needs to be done without everyone knowing what developer or company is in town, even though sometimes those get leaked. But we are a staff of 4, so I'm the CEO. We have a project manager that helps answer all the RFPs or requests for proposals. We'll talk about it a little later. So we have a business retention and expansion manager. Their role is to meet with local businesses, find out if we can get them to grow from within. We'd much rather do that than bring in new ones. And then we also have an office manager. Next slide, please. So EDCs across the nation and the world really wear a variety of hats. Big one, like we're here today, just as the educator side, letting everybody know like how we do our process. Advocate wise, whenever we meet with businesses, we find out that there are challenges. And as you can imagine, doing business in Illinois, we have some challenges. We'll write those challenges down. We will be advocates for our businesses and communities when it comes to the feds and the state of Illinois. Analyst wise, I didn't go over my background. I'm a graduate of Millikan University, organizational leadership, went through the University of Oklahoma's Economic Development Institute and finished up with a master's in business analytics from Notre Dame. So we can definitely dive into as much numbers as you want. But it's definitely economic development is an art and a science. We have to be able to tell the story of our community, but also back everything up with numbers. We don't want to be in a situation where, like Foxconn in Wisconsin, it sounds like a great deal, but the numbers were really never there to back it up to get the community to return on investment that's needed. Catalyst-wise, we work in the background to make change. That's a big thing that what we do. Gap filler is huge for us because if we've seen best practices in other communities, we want to make sure that we can implement those here. And right off the bat, when I got into town, I noticed we have quite a few gaps compared to some other communities that we've been in. And then visionary. This is ever changing right now because no one expected Rivian to have 3,100 employees. We expected them to be at 400 employees. That's literally what their incentive agreement said. They ramped up very fast. So what does that mean to the change in our economy right now? So I got to work so closely with Ray because housing demands, as you guys talked earlier, are completely off the charts compared to where they were. And it's not just the old school housing, which my family enjoys right now, 4-bedroom home on a golf course. We need diverse housing. So being the visionary, trying to catch what's coming next is really important. Next slide, please. Customers, a lot of people think that we're really all about business, which we are. We want our local businesses to grow, but also you have to have workforce for that business. You don't have a workforce, we're down in the water. Residents are very important to us because they make up the quality of life and quality of place. And last but not least is the visitors. We have some of that here, not as much as some of the better communities I've been around, but we love outside money. So we want to make sure when people are coming in, spend their dollars and go back home, we'll take those dollars all day long, which is why we rely heavily on our university partners. Next slide, please. So the mission, overall, to simplify it, we're really here to help our current businesses grow and to bring in new businesses and have a nice environment for startups. Next slide. So the outline overall, we've got our 3 major goals. There's 4 objectives under each one of those. We have initiatives to accomplish those objectives, and then underneath that, we have tactics. Next slide. So the top 3 goals, doesn't really matter what community you're in, they should revolve around this flywheel. The idea is that if you have good resources, you can develop your businesses. If your business is developed from within, you'll create investment. If there's investment, there should be a return in taxes that you can continue to develop your resources. Next slide. So for us, there's a whole system to this. The 2 items in gray is something that we do not do here in Bloomington Normal. Other communities, Decatur especially, we had a lot of life to take care of. In Tinley Park, we had a 300-acre mental health center that was completely vacant. That's a lot of light. We don't have so much here, so it's not a priority for the EDC, but we let the town and the city and the county handle any light that's here. Same with neighborhood beautification. So that's your parks, that's your houses, sports complexes, anything that would really have to do with quality of life, quality of place, your signage. I know the town of Bloomington just put up a new archway. That's all goes underneath neighborhood beautification. So we don't touch that either. But the first item on their infrastructure is really important to us. And the last one is the most important resource out of all is skilled workforce. Next slide, please. So when it comes to infrastructure, we actually lead a trip out to DC every single year. That's called the One Voice Trip. It's been very successful. It was one whenever I came in town, I actually asked, I was like, why are we doing a DC fly-in? I talked to a couple of the elected officials out there and they said, you guys keep asking for money and we give it to you, so stop talking to us and bugging us. But it's been very successful. We brought back over $51 million. We take about 3 to 5 projects out every single year. It's a good trip. We've got more coming for this year that are lining up. But the next one on the list is the Bloomington Normal Innovation Alliance. And that is something that Ray's on, Carl's been a part of as well. It's not just infrastructure, it's the smart city infrastructure. So if you can think about the amount of data that we're using on our cell phones, you know, we're all adults in this room. The kids are using a heck of a lot more data. All of our students are uploading a lot. So we're going to make sure that we have smart infrastructure in place to handle that data, let alone the amount of data that the Rivian trucks are going to be pushing back and forth. Now, we don't have to go as far as Chicago and have sensors on our trash cans, but smart street lighting, I think, can go a long way. And also making sure that our internet's up to speed. So the Bean Innovation Alliance is really focused on the smart city side of infrastructure. So for us, we have to make sure we inventory everything, because if a local business is thinking about expanding or finding a new location, or a new business wants to come in, the first thing they ask is, where's your water, where's your power, where's your sewer? We have to have the inventory for all of that. Next slide, please. So the last one on the list for this section is the skilled workforce. When I got here, we had to do a resource mapping exercise to try to find out how everybody gets a worker to a business, because there's a lot of people in that space. We rely heavily on Heartland Community College, CareerLink, United Way's got some programs as well. Our role in this is, if a business comes to town, the number one question they ask is, where are you getting our workers? And we cannot sell McLean County alone, because we don't have enough workers to support everybody here. There's actually 30,000 people that drive in every single day to work here. So we sell that 50-mile radius where there's actually 750,000 workers. So we track all of them so we can sell that to future companies. We're also working on B and STEM initiatives, which is part of readiness. And we're the workforce attraction lead. We had planned on going after alumni. Anyone that graduated from Wesleyan, anyone that graduated from ISU, saying, hey, it's time to come home. If you've got kids, great place to raise a family. And then we ran out of houses. So now we just launched a commuting campaign. You can go on beanadvantage.com/commute. We've got TV commercials running that say, hey, join the 30,000 people that drive in from Peoria to Champaign, Decatur, and Springfield for work every day. So the attraction switched to commuting until we get our housing stuff back up. Next slide, please. So the next one is business development. And there, business retention expansion, we take care of our current businesses, we issue advocacy, we figure out ways to enhance our businesses, and then we work on entrepreneurship. Next slide. So our role in business retention expansion is we're the program lead. Today, Casey, who's our new VRE manager, who is actually a graduate of Illinois State University, Stevenson Center. So it's wonderful. He was a transfer actually from California, came here to go to grad school, graduated, took a job doing rural economic development for the city of Peoria, but he continued to live here. And so I did apologize to Peoria, and I said, I'm not actually poaching him, I'm bringing him home. He still lives there. So he's been great so far. I had a really good visit with the current business. I think close to 80% of the projects that we have come from existing businesses. So if we can find out what they need to grow from within, we always want to make sure they're in growth mode. And if they're not in growth mode, we need to know what the challenges or obstacles in the way are so we can allocate for them, which leads us to the next one. So next slide is issue advocacy. We are also, we're conduits when it comes to this. So we take the inventory when we're talking to all of our businesses to find out what our challenges are. A lot of them have to do with the state of Illinois. And from my experience working in Tinley Park, north of I-80, coming back home, when you're up there, most of the time they have no idea we exist down here. So we have to get Springfield, Decatur, Champaign, Peoria, all of us to start working together and say that we're going to market regionally and sell locally. So all of us combined is a much bigger voice than individually. So we meet on an ongoing basis. Actually, this month, the new head of Intersect Illinois is coming down to talk to us. Last month, we had a bunch of site selectors come in town from the East Coast in Chicago, met with all the regional economic developers for best practices. So the goal is, again, to work to have a larger voice, because if you actually inventory all the businesses that we have here, we're much stronger together. So we use that as our advocacy arm. And the good news is the state of Illinois is listening to us, because combined, we have a lot more experience in economic development than all of them. Next slide, please. So enhancing business. This is taking care of our current businesses. This is really what we rely on our Chamber of Commerce for. They do a lot of wonderful lunch and learns. We do have some programs. So we are the administrators of the county's recovery loan program. They used to have a startup loan program, but during the pandemic, not too many people were starting businesses in the beginning. So they switched that over to a recovery loan program. Unfortunately for me, somebody gave all the businesses in town my cell phone number. So they all started calling me. So as these new programs came out, I said, I don't want to do that again. So we launched a new program that's called Payment Forward. And what Payment Forward will do is they will actually match a current business with the new grants that come out on grants.gov. After that, though, we signed up for a 1-800 number so that somebody else can help them fill their application. I bounce around the community helping out different businesses fill their applications, but there's only one of me and way too many businesses. So we got signed up for this program, Payment Forward. We also have a really cool tool on our website. If anyone is interested in trying to recruit somebody in, I have a lot of fraternity brothers that are up in Chicagoland, and whenever I show them my house compared to theirs, they don't believe it. We use this cost of living index tool, which is really neat because luckily I don't have to. But every metro across the U.S. has a shopping list, and it literally says how much is a steak, how much is the 6-pack of Heineken, how much is your house, certain wants to build, and this calculator compares everybody. So it'll say, if you live in Chicago, you need to make this much money. If you live in Bloomington Normal, you have to make this much money to have the same quality of life. So our goal is to show the difference in the disposable income. Well, I might have friends up there that make more money. I know their cost of living is double, so they don't have as much play money as we do. That's what we use to sell them to come down here. Next slide, please. Entrepreneurship. On this one, really all we do is inventory what the systems are. We've got a wonderful SBEC over at Wesleyan, and that's a great place to get a strategic plan done, help you line up with financing. We are missing some other things that other communities have. Luckily, Carl's got a new one coming online. But incubators, accelerators, shared working spaces, maker spaces, some of that's scattered throughout the community, but we don't have a full ecosystem compared to Peoria or Champaign. Luckily, it's coming along. But this is something that I think is low-hanging fruit for our community because we have a ton of trailing spouses, got some wonderful universities, great ideas, but where do we send them after they have that plan? They need the rest of the structure in place, angel investor networks, things that were always mentioned before, but not really fully planned out. So this is probably something later on down the road that needs more TLC, but I know Wesleyan's got a wonderful program coming up, and ISU is working on an innovation hub as well. So hopefully as that goes along, we can start creating more businesses here. Next slide, please. Then last but not least, the one that we're really known for is the investment side. So if you see the groundbreakings, the ribbon cuttings, this is what gets all the press. Everything else on the system leads to that last one, which is project management. But we'll go ahead and start off with our incentives, followed by how we encourage development, the marketing arm, and then last but not least, the projects. Next slide, please. So the first one, incentives. The incentives actually, if we have a list that we got back from the site selectors, it's not the most important thing. I know that gets a lot of press whenever people are saying like how much tax breaks we're giving somebody, what's working in other states. Most important is workforce. After that, it's the cost of energy, the cost of water, and then it's lower down the list are the incentives. The difference with the incentives is we manage our enterprise zone. So if you're inside the zone, you can get sales tax exemption on your building materials right now. That's really important for anyone that's building new. The one that we've been trying to get through is the standardized incentive. Standardizing incentive will make my job a heck of a lot easier because right now, we're going to get a 5-year deal, Grant got a 7-year deal. Some of the deals are asking for 10. Whenever somebody comes to me and they want to know how fast can they get approved, who has to approve it, and what's the overall incentive. And right now I can say 6 months to a year, maybe 6 taxing bodies. I have no idea how much you're going to get. I have to go ask everybody. And as soon as we do that, it kicks us out of the running because our surrounding communities are already standardized. They know if this gets passed, which is close on the county level, that basically 2 weeks, you get a 5-year abatement and it goes to one board. So that's how quick we can say we've all agreed to these terms. It just changes the game when it comes to incentive negotiation. We're pretty close on that. We've got the 5 local participating bodies on board. District 87's on board. We have to get the states to give us a thumbs up. And then after that, I know Sierra's interested, Harlan's interested in talking to District 5, with Dr. Weichel. The more the merrier, basically, because we want to make sure that everybody knows the rules. So it's a lot easier for you to say, hey, if you invest this, you get this. And it's no more back and forth, back room, me jumping all around the community trying to find out what's going to work. We just say, here's what we're doing. Next slide, please. Encourage development. So this is what Nick, our project manager, spends a lot of time on, inventorying every available and looks publicly unavailable, but still available site in town, whether that's land, whether that's a building, so that we can play matchmaker. We bring a lot of developers in town. We try to show them off the area to say, you know, we're prime for distribution, good for manufacturing. Nowadays, if they do those 2 items and they might do a little housing, if they move to the top of the list, there's a need for housing right now. And we're also been working with virtual tours, especially with the airport. So we've got properties like the former GE building, monsters properties totally underutilized, that they're getting a little extra TLC on what we can do with them. So they've got property packages were in place. So when we do go to shows, that's what we take with us to the other developers and the businesses. To say, it's one thing to say, hey, you belong here because we're doing a lot of great things. the first thing you're saying is, all right, what's available? Well, here's our top sites. So that's what we're doing with our virtual tours. Next slide, please. So marketing attraction. What we do with marketing attraction, I get to go around the country to different shows, talk to different businesses. And the common goal is whenever we go to these conferences, try to figure out how do I get them back here? Well, luckily, one of our infrastructure partners, utilities, said, why don't we just host a conference and do it normal? So we did. So that was the easiest way to get them to come here, was to host a conference. So we had them here and learned a lot of great things. The other big one that's on here, though, besides our regular marketing, we do these familiarization packages. So we'll send them chocolate bars and local beer and say, hey, look at all the great things that are happening in Louis Normal. Next year, we need to get back to vision and branding. Because when we did go to DC, there was one lady after the presentation, she goes, what do you guys call yourself? And the amount of different names that came out of everybody's mouth was a little, we're blow no, we're blow the normal. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we need a brand. I come here and we had the advantage in place, but like really, what are we? We're not the Windy City, we're not the Big Easy, we have to have something, and we're extremely diverse. So next year, we're gonna have a consultant to come in to get feedback from the entire community on what we are. That's gonna be a big challenge because we're a Twin City, and the population is about 172,000, very diverse, but we need a brand. So that'll be a big part of it. We also have a podcast. It's called Building Be In, and that's a weekly deal that we do where we interview different developers, businesses, just let everybody know here's what's going on in the background of Plymouth. Next slide. So everything we do is to get to this point right here, to get projects on the pipeline. In my career, for about 15 years, we normally do 20 to 40 projects a year. We just hit 100 projects this year. These are new projects. This isn't counting the things that started last year or the year before. It's 100 new projects. I worked on projects that were 12 years in the making. I came in the last 3 years and got the thing done. So there's been things that are in the works for a while. You probably heard about some of them. The latest ones, Rivian just again filed for another 600,000 square feet, but they've already added 1 million square feet. Ferrero just broke ground on their $75 million chocolate factory, the third in the world. Contech came in. Most people don't know they're there, but behind Zentech is Contech. Contech called their site selector and said, hey, we're concerned about your workforce. We showed them the workforce numbers, we showed them our universities, they brought 50 jobs in the community. That was a 6-month deal. Other ones could take 2 months, the Midwest Report took 5 years. It's all about nurturing those leads when they come in. I'm just happy that we've got this many coming. Another big one that happened though was the Phoenix Distribution Center on the north side of town, the old Wildwood building that's had vacant forever. They called and asked the same thing, hey, is there potential here? Yes, we oversold the mess of it, but the town worked with them, did a deal, and now they're going to double in size, so that'll get 1 million square feet. And I think that's going to trigger a lot of distribution. Everyone always says, why not have more distribution and all this wonderful infrastructure to support it? What I would say is site selectors are copycats. They work on the models. So if they see something work in the Joliet area, it's a lot safer for them to say, go up there, that's what everybody else does. So when this thing goes and it works, we're going to see more. Out of these 100 projects, the bulk of them are all in manufacturing. Over half are manufacturing. The reason being, we have low cost of doing business. The workforce is a major challenge across the United States, and we have cheap power. Because all those combined, what that leads to is a lot of automation. So you're seeing major investment in automation because low utility rates, low cost of doing business. So the bulk of them that are coming in are major investments with not as many jobs. If you think about Ferrero, that was a $75 million deal with great 50 jobs. There's a lot of equipment in that. So a lot of other things that are falling from the city. Next slide, please. So this is the whole flywheel. If we do all these things correctly and we get good ROI, we can dump that back into all these other programs, invest back in the community, and the flywheel keeps spinning. Next slide. To stay on course, our EDC board actually has 3 separate committees. We've got a real estate development committee that's focused on leads with local developers, future developers. Same with businesses and of course workforce, because we don't figure out the workforce situation. It's our entire industry is really turning into a battle for talent. You have the talent, you're going to win economic growth. Next slide. And here is the public version of the plan. Everything we talked about are listed on here in one place or another. These are prioritized. I think in 2015, the Be an Advantage was created. Wonderful document. It had 99 things listed on it, and they weren't in any particular order. So I came in and asked, what did we accomplish? And it's a little bit here and a little bit there. We focus on the projects first, our local businesses, making sure we have development, bringing in new, getting this one, which is almost done. One Voice is ongoing, STEM, getting the kids ready for the next generation of science will be huge. Workforce attraction, working on 4, but that one gets crossed off. Economic gardening will be ongoing. Rural development actually got converted into a full-time assistant for business retention expansion. This will be ongoing, and this big one right here is what's moving up, is that community vision, because that'll be huge for us. And the last one will be ironing out this whole ecosystem, and that's going to take a lot of people to get together. But again, like I said, entrepreneurship, I think, has got a ton of potential. And that's it. With that, I'll open the question and tell me what I can. No update on Samsung. That's always a popular question. That one's a monster deal. We actually have 4 of those projects that are over $1 billion out of 100. And they're so large that if they go through, some of them have more potential than others. I can see our population hitting about 200,000 in the next 5 to 10 years. That's how big some of things are.
We still have to solve the housing issue.
Housing, we didn't see coming. I mean, honestly, because like I said, the Rivian incentive said they'd be at 400. Even when Rivian came in, they said, we'll take 1/3 of the building, then we need your help finding other people to take over the rest of the building. Since then, they've blown the doors off, expanded on both sides. Way more demand than we ever thought was possible. We have 4 hotels completely full of people who are living in hotels because they can't find houses. So yeah, we definitely need houses. But our role in the whole ecosystem is non-retail economic development. So we don't do housing and we don't do retail. So we're trying to find out out of our partners who can help out with housing, who are really our partners in regional planning, to do a housing study to prove to residential developers that there's more going on here than what the numbers show. Because when they look at our rental rates, they see student housing rental rates. You can't take that to the bank. They also see the same type of Bloomington-based homes over and over and over, which is what works. But that's not what our new residents want. They want the planned communities that you see up in Chicago. That's what they need here, more downtown condos, lifestyle centers with commercial and residential, because they're not all families. Hopefully someday they will be, but not right now, they're not. And I don't see what's happening with the residential market slowing down anytime soon, especially if some of these other deals come in. I'll probably have another announcement in the next week or 2 of more investment and more jobs from another company. It's just, the momentum is on our side, but the more that Rivian is making the national news, the more people kicking the tires. They just know that we're known for making things now. In the past, we're always an education town, healthcare, insurance. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, you guys figured out manufacturing. So a lot more of that's on the way.
Oh, can we ask questions? Are
Yes.
you ready for it? Okay, so you're talking about housing, but housing also means use of resources, natural resources that are limited in our area. One is water. And so what plans do you have if we multiply planning by, I mean, I don't know how much housing is needed between Rivian and these other people and other projects that you brought up. What do you say to that?
That's why I look at Ray and be like, hey, what's regional plan? What are you guys doing to do that? Because our role is really to help businesses grow and bring ones in. But yeah, we rely on the city, the town, and the county regional planning to plan to react to what's going on in the business world.
Okay.
Yeah, we can help out and get dollars for infrastructure. So right now, a big project for us is wastewater. Like the wastewater that we have now, the system is so old, and this is across the nation, because it's out of sight, out of mind. There are holes all over this thing. So every time it rains, it floods the system, and the capacity is limited because we're treating rainwater, not wastewater. Mm-hmm. So one of the big projects for DC is to upgrade our entire sewer system because it's out of date. But as far as the water goes, yeah, that would have to be the city, the town, or you guys really.
Right. I mean, it's very, very complicated, very costly, just like the sewer problem. And that's probably both a federal and local problem to work together.
I think the cost that we're taking out this year is $200 million to try to bring back for the sewer project. The good news is they're very excited about infrastructure right now. So that infrastructure bill comes out, we're going to try to capitalize on that pretty much as possible.
Any questions from anyone else?
I remember when Mitsubishi was here, we measured where they lived, whether it's Bloomington, Normal, or surrounding areas, surrounding counties.
Yes.
Is anybody measuring where the Rivian employees are landing?
Yes. Is this public? It is? Okay. Well, so
Yes.
we're not doing this, but there's a way to track people's cell phones, so you can see where they're at during the day and where they live at night. There's software out there that does that. So yes, we ran those reports. We trace the building and say during the day, where do they go at night? Where they follow them home. And we did that on purpose because as we try to lure in other businesses, we want to know how far people are coming from. So yeah, we know exactly where they go at night.
My perception is that because of where they're coming from, they don't mind a 30-minute, 45-minute drive to work some of them.
Right. Yeah, the 50 mile has been really good for our area.
Yeah, so it's not all being captured by Bloomington Normal, but hopefully by McLean County, but yeah. As close to Bloomington Normal as we can.
Of course, yeah, it adds to our quality of life and quality of place for sure, because those are really well-paying jobs. You want that disposable income captured here.
Those of us that grew up in Bloomington Normals, we have to go through about 3 stoplights. It's a big trip, you know.
That was the fun thing about coming back down here. I heard people talking about traffic coming up Chicago, more property taxes. I'm like, no, I'm coming from Cook County. So it's, everything's relative.
Yeah. Highways are another huge thing though. If you're bringing all these people in, they're commuting, but you have all these businesses, then you need plans to develop highways, railroads, airports. I wish Carl Olson was here.
Carl's actually on our development committee.
Oh, okay.
He's really insane.
Because we've had trouble, getting enough passengers. We used to have a huge number of passengers, and then that sort of trickled down for a while. And I think it's still at a point until Rivian came, and Rivian now has a lot of private planes and others. But we also have to think about transport, not just of people, but of stuff that these people use. So I can't think of the word for these planes that carry
The cargo planes.
yeah, the cargo. So that development is a possibility of our airport for expansion purposes. But in that case, you have to work with other airports too. But we're so close to Chicago, and
That's the thing with Chicago, is you have to break that model, because one of the projects that we worked on was the Midwest Home Florida. It was the ability to have an intermodal yard right there. And in central Illinois, you can go 20 miles in 20 minutes. That's not the same in Chicago. But
Right.
getting someone in the industry to break the model, that's what's been taught. That's why I think with distribution's got to stay on the outside. You put distribution in the middle, I mean, there's a lot of Amazons are taking over older malls, and I don't want any more trucks on Veterans than possible. I mean, that was a major issue across in Cook County. Got these massive trucks that would take old vacant warehouse or old vacant retailers like Kmart's, turn them into distribution centers. Our goal is to keep them on the outside. The other thing though, with the workforce transportation back and forth, we just applied for the Build Back Better regional challenge, and I think there's $500,000 up for the entire region. I think
this is
55
from federal
from
government.
the EDA.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So they're going to give, if you make it past round 1, $500,000 to make it past round 2. That's between $25 and $75 million to do your initiatives. One of our initiatives is working with Connect Transit, other transportation, to start shuttling people back and forth to get more cars off the road, but to also increase students going back and forth. Anyone has to do with healthcare, but also give those workers to try to encourage that, because we've got trailing spouses. That one might work at Wesleyan, another one might work at U of I. So to get the more cars off the road, but bring more people in for us, because we need workers like crazy. There are things in the works. That was a big challenge to get all the community colleges, all the universities, and all the EDOs to agree on 8 initiatives for our region. But U of I led the charge. We got that thing put in last month. So hopefully that goes through, we can bring in a lot more dollars on how this new infrastructure bill is going.
So you work with them in getting that grant written
Yes.
then? Okay. Oh, that's great.
A lot of backdoor meetings. That's,
Yeah.
like I said, Navy SEALs, we can go do what needs to be done, habitualize to fill gaps.
Oh,
We probably don't see the auto traffic that we used to because of COVID, people working at home.
Yes, that's
And then
changed.
we know that
It's
really
getting
people
busy.
start at 6 and work till 8, so we don't see that traffic, so.
No, it is, the game has definitely changed, especially, so another good reason we're a good place to telecommute to, because some of the industries that we have now, you don't have to come to work once a week. And the other side of that, though, is Chicago is looking at us like, well, if I only have to go to the city once a week, why don't I live down here? So we're getting a lot of them transplanted down here too, because they can get the Amtrak done.
Right.
And originally with the attraction campaign, somebody said, hey, you guys are primed to be the next bedroom community for Chicago. In the beginning, we're like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, never mind, like we need our houses for our people because yeah, they'll take them all. I mean, because they'll make Chicago money and live here, which is good for disposable income and restaurants and everything else, but not whenever we can't even bring any more people in because we're out of homes.
So, I don't want to dominate the conversation, but I do have a question. Years ago, when these regional airports were developed, Springfield, Bloomington, Peoria, there was all talk about having one regional airport, but now we have an airport in Peoria. I mean, maybe that works fine with this new development. Do you see that as working fine, or would it be better to have one regional airport? Is the idea of one regional airport better?
There's probably different trains of thought. If I say my true opinion, I'd probably upset all the other airports. So I won't go there. It's the same with malls. Like the idea with malls is that you're gonna have one dominant mall and the rest are gonna be wayside. I would say assume similar with airports as well. The difference is the subsidies that are behind airports. So I think that we're probably gonna stay where we're at now, because I don't see it going away. It's the same with the rail. So there's been talks of bringing back the high-speed rail. Should it go over here? Should it go to Springfield? How did that come out? But no, what is for us, we'll leave that up to the airports, try to figure out, because that is more, it is infrastructure, it's a little bit of transportation, a little bit of quality of place, but it's not a focus for us right now. Because it's for us, with what we have coming in now, that's more quality of life than anything. That's something that it's doing for bringing in goods at this time. I would say if we're shipping anything, it's probably going to go out in our molding yard, using the foreign trade zone that's coming out of Peoria as well, not necessarily the planes. So we'll leave that to somebody smarter than us to figure out.
So in the next census, do you anticipate that we won't have any loss of population in this area? But you were saying that
Well,
it will.
here's the other side with the census. So whenever I got here, our census in Bloomington has always been pretty steady. The problem was no one ever really broke down the bands by age or by generation. So my generation, Generation X, has been disappearing for a long time, which is the future workforce. So it's been a great place. There's a steady line of green going across university age kids. After that, it's so-so, and then we're aging in place. And we're aging faster than some places. We're holding our own compared to the rest of Central Illinois. The census, yes, it should go up. The difference is, I think you're going to see more people in the community. So I mean, the jobs that we have here, there's two different data sets we look at. One of them is the amount of jobs that work here. The other one is where those people live. I think that number is what's going to go up. Because even right now, you said 30,000 coming every single day. That's not counted in our employment or unemployment mix. That counts for those other communities. And with the ability to live wherever you want and only work one day at some of our major insurance providers, they can live anywhere they want. So I don't think they're all live here anymore.
So calculating education needs is a pretty tough thing with this type of scenario, it sounds like.
Well, especially right now, it's all I can say about education is the big thing is a lot of people that are coming in are younger professionals going from outside. They're not coming in with families. So you're going to see those investments in downtowns, in the condos that aren't going to produce a lot of kids at first, but they will eventually.
Very interesting.
But the bigger ones that are coming in, at least they are delayed projects. It's not like, hey, we're going to drop 5,000 people on you right now. It could take a while to build up to it. Hopefully, it won't happen as fast as Caribbean. Caribbean really, I think, shocked everybody.
Yeah.
You took workforce preparation.
Yeah.
To the extent you consulted with the local school districts to either put a concerned effort on the curriculum or
Yes.
outside of school activities.
So the B and STEM program that's up there, that's a readiness arm. There's 4 areas of workforce that we focus on. One is readiness, getting the kids interested in what's coming, matching them up with the actual businesses. The next one is upskilling. So that is getting, like myself, underemployed bartender to do more with the right type of incentives. The other one is retention. So keeping the students here. We have a lot of students that come in over here and go somewhere else, and then the attraction. But to STEM, we actually have something called the HEAT Academy. So the Heat Academy has been working with local employers, matching them up with teachers, so teachers can go in and see what's being built in their own backyard. There is, if you go on beginstem.com, there's probably 3 or 4 programs under there on how they work with school districts to get kids interested in what's in their own backyard. They have multiple programs. The Heat's been huge because it's 87, I think Grace is part of it, Chris is part of it, but also a lot of it's been done by Heartland. So that combination of showing a kid at a very young age, here's how this Rivian truck is being made right here. And not only showing them it's there, showing the path all the way through grade school, high school, Heartland to get into that job. Because, back in my day, manufacturing, it's dirt, not even close anymore. I mean, just the idea that it's like Willy Wonka's going to be here. You have this chocolate factory line, the same thing. So that's what he's focused on, which is healthcare, engineering, agriculture, and technology. And that's going to be that BeInSTEM. So you go on beInSTEM.org, you get the whole thing lined up.
And question 2, a lot of the initiatives you talk about, it sounds like we need some qualified drivers. Can you speak to any efforts that you're familiar with that are encouraging CDL license?
So the one was I would know thinking is going on Hartley Community College or surrounding community colleges. Those are the big ones. The next one going on to the future side of things is what's happening with autonomous vehicles, which does concern us nationwide. We're 20% of the workforce as soon as you flip those trucks over to autonomous. But I think it's going to be either sooner than later. We had an Econ Dev conference out in Vegas, and the week before there was an autonomous show, and there's 3 autonomous cars. This was probably 2 to 3 years ago, driving people from hotels to airports with nobody driving the things. So trucks are next. So when that happens, that's probably going to solve some of that. But it's not just trucks. Like it's across the board. Workforce is upside down. And it's not just me. We're all trying to figure out what happened. It's not just one thing. But I mean, you drive around town, there's no reason that there's 4,000 people are unemployed right now. There's jobs everywhere. But trucks, that's definitely huge, especially with the distribution side of things. I need to see autonomous start shifting that away a little bit. Probably sooner than we thought. But I'd lean on Heartland for that one. Heartland, I know Richland's got a great program as well. So there's multiple community college programs that push that. Thanks. Good.
Those that are not working now, when will they get back in the workforce?
There's literally so many factors that to us, it's really interesting because, I mean, just even on this last weekend, it seemed like, I went to Panera, you can't go inside anymore, you can't go on Krispy Kreme anymore. I'm like, you can't be Panda Express, can't sit down anymore.
Right.
It's like, there's just been a massive shift. And so, when do they come back? We don't know. It's like, all of a sudden, sometimes the trailing spouse doesn't have to work. You're seeing, what do they call it? The great resignation. That's real. Like people are saying, I figured out a way during the pandemic that I don't have to have that second or third or even full-time job anymore. So all that shift. So when are they coming back? I don't know if they're coming back.
Do you think some of them are headed to Rivian?
Oh, for sure. For sure. They're going to Rivian. Rivian's also pulling a lot of other people from the outside. The other side, and I'm one of them, our generation and the kids that are in school now, I told them, your full-time job is going to school. When I was my daughter's age, who's at ISU, I worked 2 to 3 jobs. And there's a whole generation of those students that aren't taking up some jobs as well. So it's like a perfect storm of a lot of things that happened over COVID that I don't know when or if they're coming back. But that's also why autonomous or a big push for the power users to have more equipment put in to replace the workers. So you're going to see more of that. You're going to see more robots, more self-checkouts. That's what's coming to replace it. And if you go to the Distill right now, there's no servers. You order your food and you get it from the window. I see that, and that's going to be on the rise. If you want any information about anything else in the strategic plan, we track all of our meetings, all of our inquiries. We're heavily data-driven for what we do, but there's a ton of partnerships behind the scenes. And which was why we have the podcast to try to explain everything going on, but we don't, as an industry in economic development, do a good job of telling how we play a role behind the scenes in a lot of different things. You got to see the groundbreaking and golden shovels out of Pereira, but have no idea what the story was to actually get that to happen. It's like the batting average, it's pretty low in economic development, but when you win, it's a pretty big deal. But if you have questions about anything else in the strategic plan, let me know, and I'll let you know how you get involved if you're interested, and where we're at some of this.
I have a question. On rural development, do you have many businesses interested in locating in the rural cities in McLean County?
If they have land, yes. Yeah.
What kind of land are we talking about?
Oh, it's across the board. It could be 5 acres up to 400 acres. We have some of our RFPs that are that large.
So are they seeking, I mean, are these manufacturing plants or are they agriculturally related?
Both. Yeah, there's a nice breakdown. There's logistics in there. Another big push we're getting is for data centers. Again, with the low cost of power. Something happened over in China where they basically told everyone that is over there that's mining their coins, they have to mine China's coins on anybody else's. There's a big push for crypto to come over here. So that's where they're looking at a lot of land space. They don't create the best jobs. They're great for school districts. They create a ton of property taxes. There's not a lot of jobs associated with it, but there's a lot of that interest as well. So anything that's on a major corridor in a rural community, we're submitting it all that land as well. We also meet with local rural communities just to tell them in general, here is the economic development process. Here's some little things that you can be doing to bring back some of these dollars and adding them to our list so when we do go to One Voice, we can help update their infrastructure as well, because moving normal without the 21 with bad sewer and water systems, like everybody. So,
Right.
yeah, we work with them as well.
Well, the other thing, I keep going back to highways, you know, to Tawanda Barnes Road. For a long time, when our population was really growing, the idea was the state was 100% ready to have Tawanda Barnes, a new merge onto I-55 on the north side and down on, I guess it was I-74 on the south. But anyway, these are the kind of things that if we get a lot more traffic coming in and cargo development of airports with cargo traffic or warehouses, then we do have to start thinking about, I mean, so that is a huge planning challenge.
Plus, like whenever an RFP, request for proposal, comes in, and either a business, a site selector, or the state says, hey, this is interest in your area, how are you going to satisfy these traffic needs? That's when we work with the town, the city, and the county. Even go to Ray to say, here is a plan or something that we can do to get it ready for this. Because if you don't have the infrastructure, we're behind the times.
Right.
So that it is a part of the process. Some of these RFPs can be 3 pages, other ones are like 40. So there's a lot of research that goes into before you actually land a business. But that planning and concepts takes place ahead of time, especially when you have to work with the state because they're like the final say. We can only do so much locally when it comes to abatement and incentives, but the state has to throw in dollars, and a lot of times it's infrastructure dollars.
Right.
Try to make some of this work.
That's a wonderful problem to have.
That's what everybody keeps telling me, but it's, it's like the housing thing's like, oh, you're growing so fast, it's great. And I'm like, honestly, in my mind, I mean, just like a business, you can grow too fast. We're growing extremely fast right now. And you land a couple of these other deals that are in here, they're so large.
Wow.
Luckily, they'll ramp up over time. But it's one of the news because it's a ton of property tax for the school districts and everybody else. There's going to be a lot of return on this. And the best is they're good paying jobs. I've done this long enough where you can bring in some companies, and I even saw one that went in up in Will County. Pagan Civic project, it was a distribution center that they basically built the robot first to put the building around it, and there weren't a lot of jobs created. So what did you really get done? For us, there's a lot of disposable income coming back in because these are really good jobs.
Wow.
More on the way.
Any other questions? Patrick, thank you so much for coming.
Anytime.
Very
Ray's
interesting.
been great to work with. We're working on housing right now with them, trying to figure out how we're going to solve this and get some dollars behind all the stories we can hear.
Right.
So to get that set up.
No,
Yeah,
we have
anytime.
our hands full. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care. Okay, we're on to item 6B, which is the Regional Housing Initiative. So I'm gonna call on Tessa Ferraro to give us that.
Thank you. Also, there was a new caller on that is labeled caller 1. Do we have them?
Do you know who that is?
Bot?
No.
Is it Bot? Are you on the phone?
Yep. Yeah, I'm here. Yep. Sorry I was late.
Good.
Who is it?
Oh, Bot. Good.
Oh, yes. Hi, Bart.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you, Teresa.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm here to just give an update on our regional housing initiatives. So starting with our Housing Assistance Coalition, members of our coalition have provided over $4.5 million in rental assistance since May 2020. Although the state eviction moratorium ended this past October, there is a new court-based rental assistance program available, and that can cover up to 12 months of missed rental payments plus 3 months of future rent. Looking at the statewide level, Governor Pritzker announced that the initial allocation of the 2021 emergency rental assistance has been fully dispersed to renters and landlords. So that totals $505 million. That's been given to over 57,000 households. And there's going to be a new round of rental assistance that's beginning next week on Monday, November 8th. And applicants for that are eligible for up to $25,000. That could cover 15 months of past rent due and 3 months of future rent. And the state is also working on launching a mortgage assistance program for the next few months. There's currently not much information on that, but we're keeping an eye on it. And then moving to our housing data, we did finish the update to our affordable housing location model, and we presented it to the Regional Housing Staff Committee meeting, and we're currently awaiting feedback from them. This tool was first created in 2020, and it's to help our housing partners evaluate the location of proposed affordable housing developments. And it's the criteria that it's based on looks at the development's access to public transit, the performance of nearby elementary schools, and the location of existing affordable housing. And then moving on to our housing research that we do, we also completed the 2021 update to our income qualified housing issue 2 types of units and vouchers white paper. And we also presented that to our Regional Housing Staff Committee. So this paper really gives an inventory of our current affordable housing and programs, and also looks to the future to see which ones are going to be expiring within the next 10 years or so. So we, like I said, we are awaiting feedback from our Regional Housing Staff Committee, and once that is approved, we will post it on our website. And then finally, we are working on a housing resource guide. It is intended to be used.
Sorry to interrupt.
Uh-huh.
I want to make sure everybody in here knew how to get out when the doors are locked at 5.
Oh,
Oh.
no, we
Okay,
don't know.
so do you know where the sheriff's department's entrance is on the west side of the building? So you take the elevators down, and rather than walking out the regular doors that we usually exit through, there's stairs to the back, and you follow those around to the right, and you'll be able to exit through there.
Okay,
I just want to let you know because they locked the front doors at 5 o'clock.
okay,
So I want to make sure everybody knew how to get out.
okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fun thing.
Spending the night. So yeah, we are developing a housing resource guide, and it's intended to be used by our local housing partners so they have access to a comprehensive list of affordable housing programs in our community. So that's the update I have for you. Are there any questions or comments?
Who are the primary local people that you work with on any housing initiatives?
So our Regional Housing Staff Committee is made up of representatives from the city and town, Public Housing Authority, and then we also have another committee that's affordable and supportive housing. It's the same partners plus local nonprofits like Chestnut, a few other ones. And then we also have our Housing Assistance Coalition, and that is also made up of nonprofit organizations like Chestnut Path, Prairie State Legal, and we've been working really closely with them to help with our eviction, helping to make sure that our court-based rental assistance is being connected to the tenants that are getting evicted. So they've played a really big role of our Housing Assistance Coalition.
But this housing initiative is different than the initiative that Patrick was really talking about.
Right.
Correct.
Patrick wasn't really talking about those who couldn't afford housing.
Right.
Yes. The regional housing initiative that we are involved in primarily deal with affordable housing or people with like low moderate income. And then because of the pandemic, so people in need for rental assistance and whatnot, and so the focus been on that. But what Patrick was saying is more market rate, the what we generally call market rate housing and rental. Okay.
Any other
But the
questions?
cost of that type of housing has always been higher and we've had more demand for affordable housing for
Mhm.
many decades in
Yes,
this area.
Yes, there's still a big gap. So that's why we try to encourage developers to do not just market rate, but also the low income housing, and also to apply for the low income housing tax credits and that kind of thing.
In the newspaper recently had an article about landlords asking for protection if they do rent to say people who've been in jail or who are coming from homeless situations because Home Sweet Home apparently has a pent up number of people who need housing, but landlords are, it's a risk to them. So where that money would come from, Home Sweet Home said they might even raise it through their nonprofit, but they might raise money for that purpose. Anyway, it's just another aspect of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the affordable housing costs, like you were saying, has been increasing a little bit too, because our area median income has been increasing. And a lot of the, income restricted units are based off of that area median income. And so the higher that goes, the higher, the income restricted unit is. So.
All right, well, very interesting. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's see, so we'll move on. Or Jennifer is not here.
Yeah,
Are you gonna handle
I'm Jim.
that?
I'm
Okay.
Jim. Yeah, still went home not feeling well.
So,
I'll do that.
Rachel Hand-Kaiser here, item C.
I'll take off my mask if you don't mind, just really quick, easier to hear me. That way, for the PACER projects, we call it with like the pass-through. This is really a kind of normal project for the road pavement conditions rating. And there was a consultant who's been doing a lot of the data collection. So they have collected a lot of data, doing analysis right now. And next thing that they're trying to do is to train the staff with the town normal so that they can continue to use that for future management of those data. And so they basically what they have found there about 44 street segments. I mean, it's too much detail, but that's within the town normal when they do all those ratings. That's like in thousands, so it's not an easy task. So the next step really for them is to providing analysis and recommendations and creating scenarios for different funding conditions. And then they're working on the draft report right now that is expected to be completed in December. So that's for that project.
Any questions?
Questions?
Okay, let's move on to item D, which is the 5G project. And Ray is going to update us on that.
Yeah, the 5G project, as you all recall, is to really taking a look at the 5G, the application of 5G technology in terms of the aesthetics and installation of those antennas all in different parts of the town and city. So the consultant has been working, as you have been updated. They're expected to complete the draft report in the next couple of weeks, and then they will share the draft with the staff, with the city and town for their review and comments. So they are on track to getting it done very soon. Yeah, any questions?
So this relates to the infrastructure for 5G, which would provide a vehicle for the present vendors of internet access. So it's not providing an easier or less expensive access to the internet.
Yeah, it's not. It's basically because when the service providers, when 5G is here, everybody knows that. But they would install those antennas in boxes smaller than what we used to see. But then that means they would have more of those because of the ranges in the distance and to get the best reception. So So some of those will be installed in like public right of ways and next to the light pole within the sidewalks or whatever. So the cities and towns as government, then when they apply for permits, want to make sure they're aesthetically pleasing, complying with the environment, while still recognizing the technology. We want to maximize its efficiency. So it doesn't really brings down the cost, but more so for the aesthetics. And then looking at what the federal regulations, which is under the purview of FCC, the Federal Communication Commission, and the state also have regulations, but those tend to be a little bit more lenient to the service providers. That's why the municipalities trying to see what else they can do in order to protect and to keep the aesthetics and the blending while still allowing the public, to be able to utilize.
None of this has to do with making broadband more available to more families who don't currently have it.
Correct. That's not the original objectives of this 5G project. However, there actually, because of the pandemic, there's a lot of money available, and we know that Cal City, in the smart the city, the Innovation Alliance, there's a lot of money, and also you recognize the pending infrastructure bill in Congress. There's a lot of money also designated for to allow more affordable access to broadband, and so there's other entities also looking into this, but not for this particular 5G plan.
Thank you.
Any questions on this?
Okay. Let's move on to item E, which is Vision Zero, and Ray is going to update us on that also.
Okay. For the Vision Zero, earlier, just few weeks ago, in October, early October, Transportation Plan Jan and myself, along with the consultants, we made a presentation at the American Planning Association, the state conference. It's called Educate planners from different parts of the state about our project, and so it was well received. And so we continue to make ourselves available to really to do the education of the public on the different groups. And we still reviewing what would be the appropriate implementations, steps, and the staff, the organization. We have short staff right now, and also implementation takes money. Not that it takes more than money, but money is also important. So we're also looking for ways, from the state or other agencies or foundations who are interested in road safety, so that we can get more funding to help to fund the implementation also.
And you've applied for a grant also.
We not specifically for the safety, for the goal safe, but it relates to the goal safe because it's for Veterans Pathway, as we call it, the RACE grant. So our AISE stands for long.
You're not familiar with that, are you? Okay,
Yeah,
could you explain?
Yeah, this is a grant that we submitted back in July, and it's a U.S. Department of Transportation grant program, very competitive, usually less than 1% or less than 0.5% who entities who apply will get it. So we applied. It's a collaborative effort with the match money funding with the city, the town, and then the county, Connect Transit, Department of Transportation, the state, Illinois Department of Transportation, and also our MCRPC with staff in-kind contribution, and we put a proposal together to US DOT, and we support. And it's the main goal is to have a planning process to revisit this 10-mile Veterans Pathway from the northern end, like north of Normal and southwest of Bloomington, the interchanges, to revisit this 10-mile auto-oriented multi-lane roadway that is not conducive to public transit, pedestrians, cyclists, and because it was built so long ago and the development that has happened along both sides, it's not easy for people to walk across, the 6 to 12 lanes to the grocery store across the street without, driving or walking 15, 20 minutes just to get to a traffic light. So a lot of people take the chance, to cross, to going back to the safety.
Fatalities, right?
Yeah,
Pedestrian.
yeah, so try to make it safe, make it sustainable, make it equitable. I mean, it's what the federal program calls for. So we should hear, they will make the announcement in September. And so we keep our fingers crossed. If you know any, people that you can put some words in with the delegations and whoever, that would be helpful. It's unusual for IDOT to be a partner of a grant like this. And then they match like 1-to-1 on the application, and we put pretty strong local match fund together. And IDOT was willing to match 1-to-1, which is good chunk of money. So I hope with all the efforts that we put in, knowing how this roadway that was built, I think in the 40s originally as a bypass that is outdated, that we need to position ourselves for what Patrick was talking about, all the housing needs, trying to workforce, but maybe make it a better community, people who look to ride their bikes, take public transit and whatnot. So really, it's a long-range project, but it's important for our area. And if we got this grant, we hope this also will be a model for other cities in the state of Illinois, because there are a lot of other veterans pathways type of way. So that's our hope.
Okay.
But thanks for bringing that up.
Okay. So our last item is that which may arise, and we do have one, I'm going to call for Ray on this. He has a couple other things.
Yeah, really quick, maybe we can get up by 5 because it's after 5. Really quick, one is, as you may have heard, the 2020 census that we all participated, I suppose, last year. Some of the general numbers have come out. A lot of details, a lot of socioeconomic type data, but then the general numbers, what's the population in your certain cities and the counties that come out. So I just want to share with you really quick, more for your information. And also this is on the MCRPC website, and feel free to take a look at this. And what this map is showing is the county. I don't have a corner, but this just so you know the legend. By looking, we've got color code areas that have gained or lost population, basically between 2010 and 2020. So if you see the green color, the darker green is the highest, and then the red is the one that has lost a lot of population. Everything in between. So let's take out the legend and take a look at the county. Yeah, if you can pull up. Yeah. So you can tell Madison County, not Madison, McLean County as a whole, we have gained some population, and we have a chart to show you shortly. And then city of Bloomington and Town Normal have gained population. And then the greens, because a few other rural communities have gained population, but it's not really dictated by the distance from the urban area. Kind of interesting. And then you see communities, some rural communities have lost populations, some more so than others, but they are kind of scattered.
What is that area with the red?
With the red is the one that has lost the most population.
So what city is that?
This one?
Yes.
The few ones.
And what's the one of the south corner?
Yes.
Is that good?
So this is the McLean, the village of McLean.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Now they have
That's south.
lost population, 10.5%, but recognizing the population is under 1,000, right? In 2010, So when they have lost a field, that means a high percentage too.
Yeah.
But that's just to show, and then the one, is it
What about
Tawanda?
north?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, that's
Tawanda.
Tawanda.
Yeah, Tawanda has lost too. Again, it starts with 480 in 2010. So by losing about 50 people, 49 people, that's over 10% already. But it's still hard to draw a formula. Say, okay, if people willing to drive, like we talked about earlier, to the 30-minute drive to work and live out in the rural communities, but we're still losing population. So we don't know what, or maybe some of those folks have moved into the urban area, one of the possibilities. And so when the Census Bureau, which still have to release more the detailed information, then we may be able to do more analysis on that. But right now, they just gave us the numbers. But I thought it would be good for you to get a good glimpse of what's going on, so you can sort of try.
Based on what Patrick was saying about what's happening in the area, some of those little villages that have lost population are going to explode new population.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
based on
exactly.
what's
Yeah.
happening right now with Rivian,
Yeah.
which isn't covered by the 2027.
Exactly. So actually, it will be interesting to see the 2030 census. And if there were some ACS, American Community Survey census that takes into like every few years, that would give us a better picture too, because the variance in the scenario or the pandemic, how it has effect this. But these are just some hard numbers. The greens again, the top ones in greens are the ones that have gained, and then the ones in red that have lost population. But in general, McLean County has gained, that over 1,300 people, and Town Normal and also City have gained population. So again, it's on our website. Just FYI, if you're interested, just looking at some
That's
general
very
numbers.
interesting.
Yeah. Any questions on this? And then the second thing I have just more again FYI, we are right now recruiting for 2 community planners and 1 assistant planner. So if you have good candidates, let me know. Be happy to interview them. Yeah. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay. So that's the end of our agenda here so I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn at this hour, which is 5:13. Anyone want to move to it? So move. John moves. Carl seconds. So all in favor? Great. Okay. I guess we'll have to walk the back way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it is here, we can just wrap up and we go together.
Yeah, that's a good idea.